Hi, welcome to the Discipline Life podcast, where we talk all about power differential relationships and domestic discipline. I'm Arya, and this is my husband, Coda.
Hello.
And on today's episode, we're going to just be introducing ourselves, talking about who we are, how we met, why we structure our relationship this way, and how we decided to start a podcast.
Yep, all those things.
So do you want to get started?
Yeah, so we met really young, actually.
We did.
I was 19, you were 17. Y'all strike that from the record if you have young ones at home. No. Teenagers.
Well, my dad introduced us.
Yeah, so do you want me to tell a little bit of that story? Okay, so I was working at a printing press where your dad was one of the head pressmen. And over several months, I think he was heckling you while he was heckling me, right? Wanting us to go someplace to go on a date or something together. He wanted us to do something together.
Well, I had just moved back in with my parents because I had been living with extended family. And so my dad decided that I needed someone to hang out with my age.
Right.
And you were the closest to my age that he knew. And
Not sure how to take that.
And so he decided, he got it in his head that we needed to meet. And
yeah,
he wasn't heckling me. I think he was probably heckling you more than he was me. Because he's like, oh, there's this guy at my work. I want you to meet him. And I was like, okay, Dad, sure.
Well, and yeah, so he heckled me for several months. And my wife has said for years that she doesn't believe this, but I promise the first time that we scheduled to get together, I was legitimately sick. I wasn't just making that up.
Sure.
I wasn't just making that up. So we finally met, and boy, I know it was awkward because I was a typical teenage guy who didn't know how to talk to the opposite gender. And so, yeah, I pretty much talked to your dad the whole time, but your mom, your dad, your younger sister, your niece were all at the table sitting with us, if I remember.
Yeah,
correctly.
So my niece lived with us. And so, yeah, it was my mom and my dad, myself, my younger sister, and my niece. And my younger sister at that point was, if I was 17, she was around 12. And so my niece was about 3. If I'm remembering correctly.
I just know she was really young.
Yeah, she was a toddler.
Yeah.
And you sat at the table with your back towards me.
I know.
And your arm up, kind of blocking your purview of me, talking to my dad about work the entire dinner.
Yeah, like I said, I was an awkward teenage boy and didn't know how to talk to a person of the opposite sex. So it's like, oh, there's a female in the. Yeah, but that didn't mean I was still any less of a dork. So,
that is true. If we had met in high school, I don't know if we would have met organically in high school. I don't know if we would have.
Well, because I was a choir nerd, so. And you were...
I was all over the place in high school, so, I was everything.
She claimed she was popular.
No, I do not. I've never claimed that. No.
Oh, I'm sorry, that you went with the popular crowd?
I was popular adjacent at one point, but I started out being like drama club, like punk, goth, and then I went into really throwing myself into sports, and so I was in track and competitive swimming. And then finally my senior year of high school, I ended up doing cheerleading and track. I want to say there was and I was back in drama and advanced art in my senior year.
There you go.
So I was all over the place in high school, but one thing I wasn't was into choir and band.
Yeah, so there's that.
So anyway, my dad decided we needed to meet, and the dinner was awkward.
Now, I didn't tell her this at the time, but the other reason that I didn't, that I was having such a hard time even giving her eye contact is because it was kind of love at first sight for me. So.
And full disclosure, I wasn't immediately attracted to you. You were not my physical type.
Thanks very much.
I'm sorry.
But I am now. No. And then we went out for ice cream.
We did.
Just the two of us, not
We
her,
did.
not your parents and us.
And what was really funny about that is, so my parents are sitting at the table, and you ask, can I take you out for ice cream, just the two of us, so we can kind of talk and get to know each other? And I said sure, that I was okay with that. And
You're like, biggest mistake ever. No.
no. And I said, what time do I need to be home? Well, before my mom could say anything, because my mom was the more reasonable parent, my dad said, oh, be home by 2, as in 2 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
And I don't think my mom was okay with that, to be completely honest.
She didn't seem like it. I can remember that.
So we went out for ice cream.
We did.
We got our ice cream, and we talked about so many things.
On the hood of my 1987 beat up Volvo that couldn't go on the freeway because it couldn't go above 55.
That didn't have heating.
Nope, it had seat warmers. That was the only thing I had to impress you with.
And this was September, so it wasn't like freezing. It wasn't the coldest months of the year, but it was pretty chilly in the evening. And I don't know why we decided to get ice cream then. We should have gone for coffee or something, but ice cream sounded good. And,
yep.
And so we talked about so many things. We talked about future endeavors, our dreams, our goals. Was marriage something that was on the radar? Potentially, not necessarily. We weren't talking about getting married to each other that first night,
we were
but just trying to find out if each other was marriage minded.
I was definitely probing you with questions because I wanted to know where you were, because now, because we've been married 15 years now. So, and we dated 4 years before that, everybody. So we've been together 19 years. So I was somebody that always wanted to be married, wanted to be a dad. And so I wanted to probe you at least that first date to see if you had even close to those ambitions, because if you didn't, I wasn't going to go on a second date.
Right. And so you were asking, do you see yourself being a mom in the future?
Yep.
What are your career ambitions? Because another thing that was really important to you was knowing that you could have a wife that would support your career and not have heavy career ambitions herself.
Yep. Yeah, because, I'll just spill the beans to everybody. I'm a professional musician. And so I knew I needed somebody who... now, a lot of people would think it's the opposite. Oh, you're a professional musician. You're not going to maybe make a whole lot of money, so you need the other spouse to work. But that's not really what I felt like I needed. I felt like I needed somebody to stay home with the kids and worry about all of that stuff while I tried to bring home the bacon. So
you needed someone who would have the ability and the willingness to move.
Yep.
And move we have.
How many moves at this point? Have you kept track?
We are married for 15 years, and this is the 15th house we've lived in.
Yeah. Okay, well, hopefully we don't have to move again, but if not, just one more time.
The longest we've ever been in one house was 3 years.
Wow, everybody now is just exhausted listening to this. No.
And really only 2.5 because, our daughter and I moved a few months before you did because you needed to finish out our lease.
Yes, when we lived in Colorado, and I was finished with school at that point.
You were finished with school, but you were we needed to finish out our lease at our condo.
And I needed to work a little longer to get money to move.
Right.
Yeah.
To get the moving truck and to get,
Yeah, so I needed to get a few more paychecks under the belt. Sorry, we're going a little off topic
Yeah,
here.
we are.
But that our journey has taken us to where in our relationships we've had our relationship, excuse me, not relationships, but relationship. We've had a few ups and downs.
We have.
With, and then we, of course, I don't want to say stumbled upon. It really wasn't. Was it stumbled upon?
Well, I was going to say, before we go into that.
Okay. All right. I'm jumping the gun. Sorry.
I think that from hearing how we met in that first night, I think that it's very obvious that we were traditionally minded from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You were
yeah.
looking for a wife that fit that traditional role of womanhood that would be the mom and the caregiver and the homemaker.
Mm-hmm.
And not that you ever put parameters around me working. You just wanted to make sure that we shared the value that any work that I did was not prioritized as far as if we needed to move for your career, that I wasn't going to give pushback.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Mm-hmm.
Because I have worked in our marriage. Like, I worked until our daughter was born, and then after she was born, I nannied, and then I did do a couple of years working when she was a toddler.
Yep, you have. Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been home now for 8 years.
Has it been 8 years now? Yes. I don't understand. I feel good about that. I feel good that you've had a long stint at home now.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've been a full-time homemaker
That's
for
excellent.
8 consecutive years, and then I was a homemaker for 2 years before doing that little stint.
Yeah. No, I feel happy about that. I'm pleased. I'm pleased.
And so, even though we did not know about domestic discipline and we didn't know about that structure in any way, shape, or form, we kind of set ourselves up to be very traditionally minded from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And so when we came across domestic discipline, it was almost a natural progression of deepening our relationship and deepening our traditional roles and values.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Because I would say the way I describe to people that maybe don't know about domestic discipline or don't practice domestic discipline is, it is my personal view that domestic discipline is not a mandate in marriage. You do not have to have a discipline dynamic in your marriage.
Right.
But it is one way that a couple can choose to support those traditional roles within their marriage.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And so, you know, we spent 10 years of our marriage not practicing domestic discipline, having traditional structure, but not having that clearly communicated structure and boundaries that domestic discipline gave us.
Yeah. Yep. That's very true.
And so 10 years in, I came to you with this idea of structuring our marriage a little bit more concretely, a little bit more communicated structure.
By the way, I think it's important to point out, you came to me. This was not necessarily my idea.
But even if you would have been the one to come across this, that would have been okay. Like, it's not wrong for a man to want this for his relationship and come to his wife with it.
No, I just want people to know, because I think some people think this is that
it's always a male-driven decision.
Yes, right, exactly.
And to a certain extent it is, because as the man, you have authority and you have power, and if you would have said, no, absolutely not, it wouldn't have gone forward.
Yeah, right.
Now,
that's true.
In those beginning stages, when you're just discussing it, we were on equal field at that point. We were on equal plane. So if I would have said, no, absolutely not, we wouldn't have gone forward.
True.
Because in negotiation, there's more equality within negotiation. Yeah. It's only after the negotiation and after setting up the power structure that there becomes a differential.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I came to you, since we already had that traditional structure, it felt like a natural progression to say, hey, we've been doing this traditional structure. it's working in so many ways. Let's delve deeper into that. Like, let's dive deeper into structure and authority and power exchange. Like, let's dive deeper into that to make our relationship that much better.
Yeah, because there were a few things that we realized in our relationship that we felt like that domestic discipline would help, that we were struggling with.
Right, and that's not to say that our relationship was ever rocky or bad.
No, or that we were on the brink of divorce or anything like that.
No, we were not any of those things, but having that more clearly communicated structure just helped us deepen those bonds. Basically, you and I are always, and even to this day, always looking to deepen our relationship and make it better.
Yeah.
Even when it's great, we want more. Like, it's never enough. Like, I want more. I want more connection. I want more oneness. I want more alignment with you.
Yeah.
And I never want to come to a place of complacency in our marriage.
Yeah. Yeah, right. We approach our marriage the way we approach everything in life. There's never going to be a time where we put the stamp of approval and say, okay, our marriage is perfect. There's nothing more for us to grow or to do. We're always striving to make our marriage better and our relationship better.
Because I think everyone in their lives has people that fall into this where they have a good marriage, they have a good relationship, but it's stagnant.
Yeah.
And they've lost a sense of connection, and they're kind of existing together, but they're not in that oneness with each other. And I never want that to be our relationship. I never want our relationship to be stagnant.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't either. I think that's why we decided to try to embrace this, because we thought, well, we've tried a bunch of different other things. And again, I don't want to make it sound like our relationship was bad, but we had tried some things to try to get it to the next level we were trying to get to. And then we tried this and we're like, oh wow, we've had a little bit of success, and that success was enough that even when we've had to tweak this a little bit, we haven't abandoned it. Like when some things didn't work, we didn't just throw in the towel. We just said, okay, we need to tweak some things, but we've seen enough success that we're not going to throw this out the window and not do it any longer, but we're just going to tweak it so that it continues to be prosperous for our relationship. And I think it has.
It absolutely has. And we dive way deeper into how and why and all of that through this podcast. So I don't want to go too far.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying not to get too detailed, but
because we are trying to keep this kind of short. But I think that just growing our relationship and growing our oneness together has been the main motivator throughout our domestic discipline journey. And that's why we kind of started this podcast together. I had decided that, you know what, I've been in this space online. I feel like I'm reading all these blogs. I'm, listening to all these people online talk about domestic discipline. And I agree with like 99% of what they're saying. And we're doing like 99% of what they're saying. And I was like, I feel like I've gotten to a point where there's not many voices and many advice out there that is able to take us to the next level. I am so sorry. I lost my words.
No, it's okay. I didn't want to interrupt you so that if you got it back.
I was like, no, and that was a very awkward statement, and I understand my English was not so good.
No, I think what you were trying to say is that you looked at what was out there, and even though you agreed with a lot of it, you felt like there was more information that you could help, that needed to be communicated, that you could lend your voice to so that it could be communicated.
Right. And I felt like, all the advice out there is saying these things, and that's great, and we're doing all those things, but I felt like I brought a different perspective, and I finally felt like I had enough experience and enough growth in this area that I felt qualified
Yeah.
to lend my voice to that realm.
Yeah.
And so I had decided that I wanted to start a podcast. And then, Caleb from the Instagram account DD Believers reached out to me
Right.
and asked me to get,
On Substack, was it?
right,
Yeah.
get involved with the Substack group that he started and the locals group that he started. And I started a podcast with him. And I started doing just like little mini podcasts on my own. And I was like, you know what? I would love to do this with my husband. I would love for us to be able to tell our story and tell our perspective of how we run and really how you run our domestic discipline relationship.
Yeah, and we had never done something like this before either, so
No.
it was going to be another new adventure for us in our relationship.
And you agreed.
Yeah, because you know me, I love podcasting. So,
So
yeah, that
Is
pretty
there-
much sums it up of what we wanted to do in this introductory episode, and to just kind of bait you all to say, you know, if you like this introductory episode, there's more coming, and be a part of that. Do you want to talk about that at all, or are we going to talk a little bit more about that in the next episode?
Well, no, I was just going to say, you know, we go into how we introduce domestic discipline into our relationship and
Yeah.
really delve into the details of that. And then we're going to talk about all sorts of things that we have come across in the last 5 years of having our own domestic discipline relationship, as well as, you know, reacting to some of the advice out there and talking about where we agree and where we disagree with some of the common advice
Yeah.
that you find. And we have an Instagram account called _disciplined life. And so if you would like to give that a follow, we put out quotes from the podcast as well as little bite-sized pieces of advice that we want to put out into the world. And we also want to encourage you, if you're listening on YouTube, we want to encourage you to get connected to our Patreon. So,
Yeah.
because through our Patreon, you get early access to these podcasts, as well as a whole lot of other perks, depending on the tier that you choose. And so
The choice is yours.
So we would love to connect more with you guys, and we really look forward to it.
Yeah. And I would say see you in future episodes, but we're not going to see anyone. But we will, hopefully you will listen to us and as we release these future episodes. This was fun.
Yes, it was.